Hi everyone. This is the Gopher Dunes cross country from Sunday, May 20th in 2023. This is the Vet 55 class. That's Sandy beside me on my left, and I thought I'd do a voiceover for this one. It'd been pretty rainy the day before, and apparently it was quite muddy, but this one was really nice. Frank and Derek Schuster and their team did a lot of maintenance grooming on the trails the night before, and everything was really nice. So this was a dead engine start, and I'm about 11th out of 13 at this point. But that's fine. I didn't want to start too quickly because usually in these races I end up trying to go too hard, too soon, too quickly, and tire myself out. So I wanted to start a little bit further back and try to pace myself a bit. So this is the first lap. You just saw the start there, and so far so good. Probably one of the higher speed cross-country events because of the wide open sections, and I'm on a different bike. Instead of the Yamaha YZ 250 FX 4-stroke, I'm on a Husqvarna TE 150 2-stroke. Much lighter, much more nimble, and eventually it would be really good for me, but I did have a few issues early on in the first couple of laps, as you'll see, which is why I decided to do this voiceover. It's only half the engine size of most of my competitors in the class, and it's sprung a little bit late for my mass, but really this is a really good choice for me. It didn't tire me out. But there's my first big mistake, target fixation. I was looking at that tree and a rut and went right off the course. Really stupid. Lost a lot of time here. And here I am trying to get back on the course instead of cutting it, and traction was not the greatest. Had this log to get over. I can go through the bigger logs over to the left, or that little swamp area. So I got a lot of time wasted there. And Sandy, who was right behind me, is going to be coming up. There, he just passed right there on a different section that looped back beside. Oh no, there's Sandy right there. So, pretty dry considering all the rain that we had had. I was expecting this to be the muddiest Gopher Dunes XC race that I had been in, and it turned out to be the least muddy of any of them I've been in. This is one of the two single track areas. There wasn't a lot of single track here, but this is where the light, nimble bike made a big difference for me for not wearing me out. And even though the bike wasn't as fast in the straightaways as the other bike that I have, this one turned out to be much better for me. It was a lot of fun to ride too, especially getting stuck in some of the deep ruts in places, or falling over from some of my mistakes. This one was much easier to pick up and to keep going. But the other thing too is that with light weights and not having the same kind of momentum that the 4-stroke had, it was much easier to change direction suddenly, and so that was a big benefit. The 4-stroke rides like a train, and getting it to change direction quickly when you need to is a little bit of a chore, and tended to wear me out in races last year. So this is the second little single track section, and again there's some ruts here and mud, and there are some places where the ruts were getting already quite deep. Later in the race, some of them got really bad, and people were getting stuck down to their swing arms or even their side panels. And here, more target fixation is coming up, I think. No, actually, later on in that same spot, I'm gonna have a stupid mistake again. But this is almost the end of that second single track section, and the rest is going to be wider trails. And there we go. So smaller engine didn't really bother me at all, even on the fastest straights, and the soft suspension was not too bad, even with the big whoops. And you just saw someone there just slide right through that corner, so that's why, especially on this first lap, I was trying to take it a little bit easy and not totally wear myself out or make some more dumb mistakes than I already had by going too fast and overshooting and not being able to slow down and change direction in time. With the GoPro, you can't really tell the consistency of the dirt, but a lot of places it was like the nice chocolate cake, loamy kind of stuff, but there were some spots that were really muddy and slippery, and some of the ruts were quite deep and twisty, so they'd kind of throw you sideways. And if you get cross-rutted, it's even worse. So I'm still kind of taking my time here, not dawdling, but not going full out. So I'm happy with that, because in the past I always get caught up in the heat of the moment, try to go too fast, and as I said, wear myself out. So this was trying to ride a bit smarter. This is only the first lap, and the old saying is you can't win it on the first lap, but you can definitely lose it on the first lap. So I was trying to make sure I didn't do that. Oh, and there's Sandy up ahead of me now. Hey, bud. Sandy's got the Insta360 camera on his helmet, so maybe he'll get some of me as well. One thing about the two-stroke and the deep dirt is that if you got caught a bit too high of a gear and had to slow down suddenly for some reason, it was a little harder to get going again. But a little bit of a fan of the clutch or a quick downshift, and usually it would pick right back up again. So I don't think the two-stroke was any disadvantage anywhere, and definitely was an advantage in a lot of places. The later sections of the course layout were most wide open. There were some curves and there were some ruts, but it wasn't too bad. Say that it was an opportunity to relax a little bit. As long as you're standing for the whoops and you could grip the bike with your legs, then you can give your arms a little rest, which I shouldn't have been working them as much in the single track as I was, but I tend to do that. I got a little bit better later in the race, but this first lap there was still a bit of nerves, so I was holding on a bit tight. You can't really see it, but in these ruts there's debris, like little pieces of, well, not little, medium-sized pieces of wood and things like that. They can throw you sideways, so you had to make sure you had control, but at the same time, with the way the ruts were kind of uneven and wavering a bit and moving from different riders, you couldn't hold too tight on the bike. You had to give it enough gas and just use your core strength to keep the bike on track and not worry if it wandered a bit. Kind of coming up to a part that was a little bit tricky for me a couple of times. So this was a little bit deep in the, you can't really tell, but the ruts were deep and there was like really loose mud in the bottoms of them, so it really sapped your speed. And if you backed off on it because it felt like you were going into the swamp over to the right, then you would lose all your momentum. too badly on that one right there, but next 2 or 3 laps, 1 or 2 of them, I had a couple of times where I slowed down too much and lost all my momentum. And here we're going back out onto the GP track, not the main sand track at Gopher Dunes, the one that's easier and the one that I like more. And this was a chance to pick up a little speed, shake out the arms a little bit, and one jump away from the finish line and going through the scoring. One thing I noticed at some of the past cross-country races is that my arms would be really stiff and tired, and so it was hard for me to navigate through this scoring gate with the 4-stroke. But with this nice nimble 2-stroke, it was just effortless, no problem at all. Easy to get slowed down, easy to navigate through the little bends to get in there, and much easier overall. So now we're on the second lap. I kind of have an idea of what the layout's like, so I'm going to start to pick up a little speed. Not quite as much yet as I was hoping, but getting there. This little section here, I was still a little bit hesitant on it because I didn't quite remember what was coming up through this little chicane here, but later that's one of the areas where I started making up more time. I started to be able to drift kind of through the initial corner, and then maintain speed through the straight and through the chicane. Having someone right in front, it's a little bit easier to see the terrain. The camera doesn't show it, but you can tell from the back wheel of the rider in front what's happening. In quite a few places there were multiple lines you could take. Here I just took one that was beside the one where I had the problem on the first lap, and not only was it more direct and quicker, but it saved me from that place where I went with right off the track. And here we are again into the second lap, first section of single track, and not really wearing me out the way the other bike did. I'm still a bit nervous with other people around me in the single track, because usually that's where I go the slowest. I really want to hold people up, but I think I was holding my own, and luckily this section was short also, so I could get through it quickly. Nice wide section there so that fast people can pass. We're getting into the second area of single track. There's a little jump there, you can't even tell in the video, but that was a little tricky. Multiple lines through there, lots of deep ruts, and deeper than others. And luckily I took a straight one and not too deep. This corner here was a bit tricky at first, just because the rut was so deep, the main one that I got in there. And once you got in, it was pretty much had to ride it out, get out of it. unfortunately here I go through a bit of a deeper rut, but not too bad. Later in the race that would be quite bad. And there's the target fixation. Threw me off, and then started looking at the second log, and the deep rut up ahead fell right over. Kind of did the splits with my 1 foot over the log. And you can't really tell there how deep that rut is, but it is quite deep. And sticky mud was on it. Just a stupid mistake, so shouldn't have done that. But I was able to load the flywheel and get out of there without too much trouble once I got going again. Took the inside line there, just so it wasn't so sharp at the top. And, just kind of getting my wits back about me as I go through that last little bit of single track before getting onto the wide stuff. Falling over like that threw me off just a little bit. But now we're off the wide stuff again, and even though it's faster and bumpy, it's a place where you can kind of relax as long as you use good form to keep the bike in control. With the little two-stroke, you have to shift a little bit more, but not as much as you think. I'm quite surprised at how much that little engine can lug, and how broad the power is for a small two-stroke. It's really pretty user-friendly. There's some more alternate lines. Some would be straighter but have bigger holes in them, and others were more curved, but they'd set you up better for a banked curve or a berm or a rut. It's always different choices. Off to the left there is a line that I started using later in the race that turned out to be pretty good. You can see how much the back end steps out just because it is so loose, and when you're on the gas you can kind of shoot right through the top of the ruts. This was a place that had a kind of a big rut that was a little bit disconcerting right beside that big puddle, but as the race went on, that section actually got better instead of worse. Got flattened out a bit from people taking multiple lines. I tried doing those whoops at high speed a couple of times, but I found it was a little bit more tiring than it was worth for the slight advantage in time that you get. And I started trying to go a little bit to the right of the deepest part and not hit them quite so hard, so that I didn't really have to use my body as much. There are a few places here where I'm kind of cruising a bit, where I probably could be going faster, but from the mental side of it, it was good for me to kind of pace myself and not get too far ahead, because usually when I did the worst with that, it was early in the races, and so I didn't mind going a little bit slower just to kind of get a feel for it and try to learn the course a bit. And there's a bit of target fixation, almost hit that tree, looking at the tree in the rut, but luckily saved it. Happy thing for me is that my last lap of the race, the 10th lap, was actually my fastest. So I think that was a good sign that I stayed comfortable and loose and breathing properly and not getting too tensed up, getting fatigue and arm pump. I did get arm pump once or twice in the earlier laps and had to pull off for a few minutes and shake it out, but not like the times in the past where it would be just really bad. If you got the ruts the right way. Some of these were quite easy to do at a good bit of speed because they were smooth and continuous arcs, so that was good. But if you got one that was bad or let off the throttle, then it was worse than staying outside. This is coming up just after this curve to that swampy bit that I didn't like. Tried it once on an inside rut. Oh, lost all my drive there when I had to correct for almost going into the swamp. But that deep rut to the left, I tried that one time and that was really bad. Just eats your bike. So we're getting close to the home stretch now. This was really fun track layout, and the weather was perfect. No rain, about 18 to 20 degrees. Not fully direct sun, and there was shade from the trees, so it wasn't a matter of overheating. Of course, I had my hydration pack on, so I was taking little sips of water at frequent intervals. I find that's one of the things that helps me the most. Last jump before the finish line. This is the end of lap 2.